book, I think everyone here, or many people who beg me for tickets, said it's really been a game changer for them. And it was certainly for me, that it's really torqued their perspective on the world, not just particularly on people who have these challenges. So if you can first just talk about the reaction, and please be immodest. Did you anticipate this kind of response, and what are you hearing about why it's had the impact?
Well, I have to keep reminding myself that as of September, which is not so long ago, there were people saying to me, 1,000 pages on disabled children? You think anyone's going to read that? I think that we are at a moment culturally at which we're changing our attitude toward an understanding of difference. The place where we see it most vividly and most obviously is in the shifting attitudes toward gay marriage. I think it was a very unaccepting world. I mean, Time magazine in 1966, when I was 3 years old, ran an article that said, even in purely non-religious terms, homosexuality represents a misuse of the sexual faculty. It is a pathetic little second-rate substitute for reality, a pitiable flight from life. As such, it deserves no rationalization, no glamorization, and no pretense that it is anything but a pernicious sickness. And that's the world that I was growing up in, and that's the world that my parents inhabited. And I used to think because they didn't entirely accept who I was, that they didn't entirely love me. But now I think they loved me the whole time, and that acceptance of someone who's very different is hard. It takes a lot of doing to get to the point of acceptance. And the passage there was difficult. There's a reason why my last book was about depression. I think a lot of that was rooted in my sense of marginalization, feeling marginalized by the people I went to school with, feeling that there was a thing about me that if my parents knew it might make them love me less or make them less comfortable and happy with me, feeling that I might be a disappointment to everyone. Those were all very real feelings, and there was a lot of despair attached to them, and it took a lot of doing to get through them and to the life that I have now. I really, really, really wanted to try to fit in. I really, really wanted to be straight. A lot of what I really wanted, however, which was, I think, central to my parents' issues, to my issues, to all of the issues, I wanted to have a family. Family life was, to me, it was the nexus of joy. The love you have for your children is like no other feeling in the world, and until you have children, you don't know what it's like. It was both a compliment and a challenge. And I think that I had always remained angry at my parents for not instantly warming to and celebrating and acknowledging and being completely at ease with who I truly was. I think I felt like my mother should have said, if you like the pink balloon, you take that pink balloon and we'll walk proudly down Madison Avenue with it. And that's not what she did. She tried to get me to move over to the blue balloon. And she tried to do that in various ways all through my childhood. And so in a variety of ways, though less obviously, did my father. And I was angry about it. And then I did this book, and I really saw what a struggle it was for all of these families to accept all of these children with all of these differences.
We can change this, we can fix this. And that's such a tension that you talk about, cure versus this is the way it's going to be.
And the difficulty is that you can't come down entirely on either side of that dichotomy, which is the fix it, accept it dichotomy. Because parenting involves fixing a lot of things in your children. It involves helping them to get better. It involves finding the best doctor or therapist. It involves helping to repair the things that are repairable that you believe will make their lives difficult or unpleasant or sad. I've had a lot of problems in my life, but not learning to read and write is not one of them. So the dyslexia could be fixed, and the gayness couldn't be fixed. And I wish that they hadn't tried to fix the gayness. And having looked at what they all struggled through, I thought, my parents actually did reasonably well with it. They really did okay. And I never had a point at which I felt like they would never speak to me again. They wanted nothing to do with me. They wished I'd never been born. All of these terrible things that I did hear other parents saying. And I put it in context. And I understood also, as I did the research on that time period, I understood that they were, on the one hand, concerned because of the way that my being gay reflected on them, but also deeply worried about whether I would be able to have a happy life. And some of that pushing me toward the blue balloon had to do with the fact that they thought walking down Madison Avenue with the pink balloon was ultimately going to be a very rough way to live. And I came to appreciate that while ultimately it wasn't such a rough way to live for me, ultimately, that they were being protective in ways that I had thought they were being hostile. So we also live in a moment in which we have two kinds of progress that are coinciding. We have social progress, which makes all kinds of conditions much more acceptable. It's this more tolerant of difference world that I talked about at the very beginning in relation to why the book has found an audience. And we also live in a time of medical progress when more and more of these conditions are amenable to treatment. I thought to myself, aha. I thought, here it is again, a family that perceives itself to be somehow part of the mainstream with a child whom they perceive to be different, and the question of how much to assimilate and how much to give the child a strong sense of identity separate from and different from any identity the family had had before. And I thought, if I have now common ground with the deaf and with dwarfs, there must be a lot of other categories out there who are in this interstitial vacuum waiting to join our sort of gladsome throng.